Hey guys, this is The Reload. I'm your host, Kiana Ward, and today we are taking over the airways to talk about smartphones. Not just buying a smartphone or what new version is out, but how your smartphone can be used to create content, to produce, to also be a journalist, become your own journalist in so many ways without being a part of a major news station or network. And I have with me today, I want you to introduce yourself.
Okay,
I don't even want to introduce you. I'm gonna
okay,
let you take it over.
that's fine. I'm Michael Rosenblum. I'm an old friend of Kiana's, and I've been in the television and video revolution business for about 30 years now, maybe more. So, how's that?
Yes. Michael is amazing. When you give your speeches at events, the last event that I invited you out to, everyone was just so thrilled to have you because you kept it real and you stuck it to people. So our question here about smartphones, we know that technology is taking over, and you can pretty much do anything from your phone. You can make professional photos, you can make professional videos, you can even in with depending on what type of version that you have with your device, you can also produce and create smart short films. Tell me about the journey that you have taken with educating others, and pretty much over the last decade. I know that you've like traveled the world to um, educate people about the VJ and how they can create content and sell that content and produce that content. So, um, how do you see and what do you see the shifting of how smartphones are helping professionals um, with their content?
Sure, no, I'm happy to do that. Just by way of background, I would try to keep it brief.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the television, kind of a weird end of the television media business for more than 30 years. My last real job was I was a producer at CBS Sunday Morning, which is probably not the right demographic for your viewers or listeners, but people over the age of 85 still watch it, still on air. But
Mm-hmm.
I was in my late 20s and I was a network TV producer and I was making a lot of money and traveling around. And then I quit because I thought it was all bullshit, actually, and bought myself a small video camera before there were phones. And I started traveling around the world and just make my own videos and my own TV. Today, that's everybody does that. But in those days, that was considered a very radical idea because television was really the purview of networks and, Viacom and CBS and people like that. And it turned out there was a big market for that stuff that I could make by myself. And I started to sell stuff left and right for thousands and thousands of dollars for essentially what was relatively easy to do. And then I probably would have kept doing that, but a Swedish billionaire who was starting the first commercial television networks in Scandinavia understood the economics of what I'd done because I got rid of the cameraman, the sound man, the producer, the editor, and you still see all these people today with complete and total waste of time and money. So he flew me to Stockholm and he asked me this sort of seminal life-changing question. He said, "Can you teach other people to do this?" And I said, which I say to this day, any idiot can do this. So he capitalized the business with me, and we started to build TV stations across Scandinavia based on this model. Essentially, here's the camera, there's the door, go make stuff. And so we built 3 TV networks there. And then I came to the United States and I built New York One, which you may be familiar with, based on
Yes,
that
yes.
model.
Mm-hmm.
Then the BBC, and then all over Europe, and then, all over the world. And the model was pretty good. And then I went through a lot of iterations. I started a company with the New York Times, and that became New York Times Television.
Right.
And we produced about 8,000 hours of cable TV shows, sell for about $250,000 per hour, which anybody can do. We're happy to talk to your listeners about how that works.
Yes.
And then I met Al Gore, and we launched a channel called Current TV, which then we sold about 5 years ago for $500 million. So that was a pretty good business.
Mm-hmm.
And probably we would have stopped then, but then we got called by Spectrum, and now Lisa and I are building a series of TV stations across the country, Spectrum Channel News One, They're in LA and
Mhm.
Texas and North Carolina and the Midwest. And they're all based on this model also. We use only phones, and we put people through this boot camp, the same boot camp that you went through when we
Yeah.
did the thing out in East New York and Brownsville. And you had a good time, right? You learned how to make video,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I learned
yeah.
a lot. I wish that it would have continued. And I actually wish, I don't know why they didn't move it to the Harlem office. Like, I feel like that would have been a better location because I think there is a man up in Harlem.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I know that it was focused on more of the rural areas.
yeah, well, that was the idea that, nobody paid any attention to Brownsville and East New York. So that was the
Yeah.
idea. And then I thought once we got it going, we could go raise some money from, the borough of Brooklyn. But nobody wanted to put any money, which actually drove home to me what Samson had told me in the beginning. He said, nobody cares about Brownsville and East New York. And actually that proved to be quite true because even
Mm.
if we had all these people and all the stuff we were making, I couldn't get a dime from anybody to, underwrite the thing or support it in any way. But, you learned how to do it and a lot of other people learned how to do it. And for, your listeners who want to learn how to do it, there's
Mhm.
always the VJ.com, which is our online website where people can learn how to do this. And of course, to me, it's a terrific, there's two aspects to it. One, it's a terrific business. You should buy my book, iPhone Millionaire. It's not called that for
Mhm.
nothing. You can make lots and lots of money with your phone making content for cable. I don't recommend making content for YouTube. That's kind of the only person that makes any money for is YouTube, not for you.
Right.
But television, in New York alone, there are 2,000 cable channels and they have to run 24 hours a day. You can't have a cable channel without putting stuff on it. And so these channels have an endless appetite for content. They're always looking for content. And cable pays on average $250,000 to $300,000 per half hour, which is pretty amazing.
Right.
And all you need to make a half hour is you need two things. Well, you need three things. You need a phone, which everybody's got, because all phones shoot 4K, which is 4 times high def. You need an idea, and that I can't give you, but there's a million ideas out there. And then you need the skill set on how to do that, which is what the VJ.com or the boot camps that we did with you guys offers. And you put those three things together. And that is really, as I explained when I did the talk to the music group, there's no point in putting stuff online and getting likes and friends, because likes and friends you can't take to the bank. Not to be totally cynical, but nobody cares how many likes you have. On the other hand, everybody cares how many dollars you got in your checking account. And in the real world, cable channels are desperate for content and they will pay if you can come up with something. And the fact is, with a phone and a little training, pretty much anybody can do this.
Yeah. What do you think are the social and environmental impact of, of using smartphones? Like, I guess what do you see out of that? Like the social and environmental
Yeah.
impact compared
Well,
to how we used to produce and
well,
make
it's
content.
like anything else. Is that people take control of. We live in a world dominated by media. We live in everything is about media. Everything else is kind of an abstraction. And between Facebook and Instagram and television and cable and now Netflix and stuff like that, the average person in America spends about 8 hours a day involved in the media world. So our world is really constructed out of this media content stuff. And up until now, the content in those media platforms has been controlled by 6 or 7 major corporations, whether it's News Corp or CBS Viacom or Disney ABC. And those corporations put stuff on the line, on the air, on Netflix, basically just to get an audience. But the audience has interests of their own. And what the phone does is it allows the democratization of who gets to make the content. I mean, up until now, the content gets made by Hollywood studios or TV networks in New York, and everybody else's job is to sort of watch it. But now, if people have their own phones, they can actually make the content that they find interesting. And the fact, if they find it interesting, other people who are viewers will find it interesting, and that the networks find interesting because that's what brings in an audience. So the whole process of who controls the medium has been changed because of smartphones. And the people who grab them first will do very, very well because the appetite is there. There's this enormous demand for content. And if you can create something that you find interesting to you and your community, the networks will buy it from you and put it on the air and pick up those people as viewers. It's a pretty simple process.
Yeah. So I guess that's why, we are now seeing more um social celebrities, I like to say,
Yep.
because you know they have their phone, they can create
Yep.
that content, and then they
Yep.
can just go straight to whatever network, or a network may find them through
Well,
those social
the networks
channels.
tend to find them. You have to
Yeah.
remember that for cable, just
Hmm.
in New York, there's a demand for 4.5 million hours of content every year just on cable. And that's a lot of content. Your entire life, sorry to say, is only 750,000 hours long. So
Yeah.
4.5 million hours a year is a lot of content. And all these cable channels are desperately looking for stuff that people want to watch. And so you can short circuit that by creating stuff that people want to watch and taking it directly to them. A lot of people go the route of, I'll put stuff on YouTube, I'll put stuff on Instagram, I'll put stuff on TikTok. Somebody will
Hmm.
find me, I'll get a lot of followers. This is a waste of time. What you really need to do is simply take your idea, create like a 2 or 3 minute demo of it, and just send it directly, to those networks. There was a very famous bank robber named Willie Sutton, and they said to him, "Why do you rob banks?" And he said, "Because that's where the money is."
Yeah.
So in this
Yeah.
world, the money is not on YouTube. It's a long process. The money is not on TikTok. The money is not on Instagram, although you can get there, but it takes
Right.
forever. The money is really with cable and also places like Netflix and Apple. They're all looking for stuff all the time. And if you can make, it's all video. It's all about video and characters and stuff like that, things people want to watch. So if you have an idea, take your phone and go make something, and you only have to make 2 or 3 minutes and then
And
send it out.
what would be the first start for someone who's new and they're interested
Yeah.
in getting into like creating content and
Yeah.
entertainment?
Yeah.
um what should they be looking for? What should they prepare for before they even
Well,
start
before they
filming
do
that
that,
content?
they got to get the
Yeah.
skill set that you got when we did the boot camp, because just turning on a phone and pointing at something is you generally make a mess.
Right.
So the VJ.com is the online school, and that's probably the best place to learn how to do it. And we have a 10-day free trial, so you can check it out.
Yeah.
And then once you get, as you saw from the boot camp, everybody there was making pretty good stuff in a couple of weeks. So it's not all that hard to do once you get the basic rules. And then once you do that, you have to create a 2 to 3. People make pilots, which is crazy, half hours. Or, they go like Samson, who I love. And Samson was also, he was a graduate of the boot camp also.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then he went off and made that documentary that he sold to, Puff Daddy and Revolt.
Yeah, Revolt.
So,
TV.
but he was talented and he had years of experience at BET. So if you don't have years of experience, you just make 2 or 3 minutes. Don't try and make a whole documentary, because it takes forever and you really got to know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can make 2 or 3 minutes to kind of demonstrate what makes a good show that cable or online will want to buy, and what makes a good show, it's characters that are interesting,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good storyline, simple, it's a repeatable thing, and it can be very, very, very simple stuff. The first thing Samson did was, he did girl gangs in Brooklyn, because he knew them. So all he did was show up and start shooting them. But, I always tell my nephew who's looking for work, I say, go put together a show like Search for the World's Worst Apartments in Brooklyn,
Right.
And, that you would watch that though, right?
I would watch it.
You would definitely watch that. So
do you think that when we speak of smartphones, is there a certain type of quality of that smartphone that you need to look out for besides the 4K? So
no, they all shoot 4K today. I like the iPhone because it's very, very simple, and the editing software is very simple. But the Android phones, if that's what you got, they're just as good. And there's edit software for them that is just as good. And you got, like you saw in the boot camp, you got to learn the editing. So again, at the VJ.com, we got the lessons on the editing. It's very, very simple, but learn to shoot, learn to edit, and then just try out your ideas. And the real trick here is not to fall in love with one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 ideas, and just make 2 minutes of each. And then you just, put them up on YouTube, so there's a link. And then you start getting in touch with every single person you can think of in every one of the 2,000 cable channels that are just in New York. and Netflix and, all the OTTs and AT&T and Apple
Right.
and, Hulu, you'll find somebody who likes it. It's just a matter of time.
So let's talk about the VJ in those programs. What programs in terms of the boot camp, the VJ is offering for someone
Well,
who
at
would
the
be
VJ, it's
interested?
very simple. I mean, it's basically there's 1,200 video lessons in the thing, but
Wow.
it's all levels. It's introductory, intermediate, advanced, how to start your own business. We have a very popular thing that people order all the time called how to start your own TV channel, and that's for free. All you got to do is email
Wow.
me and we'll send that to you. And that's a pretty good, introduction to how to do it on your own. But then on top of that, we're also starting to run these Zoom courses, like mini boot camps, and those are free also. And they're participatory, like what you participated in, except we're now doing it on Zoom. And so we're going to start offering those on the VJ for free to begin with. And they run the whole spectrum: how to shoot, what makes a great story, how do you find a character, how do you market your stuff, how do you do a deal, all the things you have to know. I'm a great believer in democratizing the medium. I mean, it's such an incredibly powerful medium, and it's in the hands of so very, very, very few people that, our perception of the world gets very warped by what we see on TV. So the more that more people can get their hands on this thing and start making stuff, of the broader the view we're going to get of what the world is really like, as opposed to what the networks want us to believe it's like.
Yeah. And in terms of like taking those classes, what what can a student who's just getting started, as I stated, what can they expect from out of those classes?
Well, I think the introductory class. I mean, I would urge all of your viewers and listeners to go and check out the bj.com, because, like I said, we've got a lot of free lessons there anyway. But as you'll see, it's like you did. Remember, we did the 5-shot rule and stuff like that. It's all very, very basic. And as you saw when we did it, and the whole group out there did it, as long as you stick to those rules, like the 5-shot thing, the thing cuts like that. It's so simple. People always overcomplicate filmmaking, directors and associate directors and DPs. Every time I hear that, I run the other way. It's really much, much simpler than people think it is. It's just a very small set of rules. And as long as you follow the rules, you make a cuttable film every single time. What I can't teach you is to have creative ideas. That you got to have on your own. But if you got the ideas, and the other thing is, you don't know what's going to work. That's the weird thing now, is that,
Right.
we live in such a crazy world where essentially, 5 or 10 executives at Viacom and CBS and NBC, they decide all the programming everybody's going to watch, which is inherently crazy. I mean, if you look at books, great novels don't come from, a couple of people at Random House. Great novels come from people sitting at home going, I got this book, I was just gonna write it. And that's where great books come from. And that, in the future, is where great video and television will come from.
Yeah. And with COVID, everything is taking place with COVID. Do you think it's even more important now to take advantage and learning those skill sets? And
I mean, COVID to me is one of these moments in history where everything gets turned upside down. And the world is never going to really be the same even after this thing is over. And a lot of people realize, I don't have to go to the office. A lot of people realize, I don't want to go to the office. I don't want to have that kind of job. Life is short, and I want to do something that I can do from home and be creative and make a lot of money. And the thing with television and video is that you can actually do that. And that's the miracle of the phone. Because even you edit on the phone, all you need is an iPhone or a smartphone, and you can make content. Do you know that the television market is $1.72 trillion a year? That's enormous.
Oh, wow.
The global oil business, which everybody thinks of so enormous, is smaller than the global television market. Wow. Television is a bigger business than oil. But you want to be in the oil business, you got to have an oil well. You want to be in the television business, all you need is an iPhone. It's a lot easier.
Right. So tell everyone how they can. I know you mentioned the VJ.com.
Yeah.
Let us know how we can connect with you if anyone out there that wants to invite you to speak on their panel, or maybe they have a class or something.
Yeah, I'm always happy to speak on any panels, right? Yeah. So you can always find me at Michael at rosenblumtv.com, or just get in touch with Kiana, because she got my email. She could be my agent.
No, you can be my agent.
We'll work both ways. We'll work it both ways.
And is there anything that you are seeing shifting, like new with the iPhones, the smartphones, of how people can produce, or should anyone be aware of?
Yeah, you know what?
To come?
I tell you what we found very interesting. 30 years ago, I built New York One. And of course, all your people in New York, they're familiar with New York One. And right. But when we went out to LA to do Spectrum One in Los Angeles, which is like a New York One for LA that Lisa and I did, we started 2 years ago, we did news in a very different way. Instead of doing news, like you see news now with the police tape and the stand-up and the interviews and all that kind of stuff, we said we're going to make movies. And so we made movies about news stories. I mean, that's real reality TV, character and arc story and adventure and stuff like that. And it turned out that Spectrum One Los Angeles went from 0 now, and 18 months later, it's the #1 rated channel in Los Angeles. So the lesson here is that people watch, I mean, look at it. You and everybody else, you go home at night, you don't turn on news really. You turn on like Netflix, and it's true. You do. And the reason you turn on Netflix is because it's a little adventure, it's a little story, it's about a little character. So if you want to make video or TV or movies that people want to watch, then you got to do the same thing. You got to say, I need a character, I need an arc of story, I need an adventure, even if it's about an important social issue, Nobody really wants to hear about global warming. They're just not really interested. But when you get I'll give you a perfect example. When you get a character and a story, people resonate. So, I remember Black Lives Matter was around for a long time, but when George Floyd came around, suddenly there was a character everybody could relate to. Once you have a character, everybody goes, I get it. It's a natural human trait. We love stories about characters, and we can relate to other people. We can't relate to abstract concepts. So, if you want to do stories about the social good, or you want to make money, you want to do both, it's always about a character. You find a character and a story, and you're all set.
Yeah. Before we wrap up here, do you want to say any final last words, or give any encouragement, or any final tips from your book, from the iPhone Millionaire?
Yeah, iPhone Millionaire is a good book. I have a new book coming out next month called Don't Watch This, which I urge people to read that one, and you can pre-order it on Amazon right now. And,
I'll do that.
Yeah, you should do that. I think you'll like it. And, it's like the next step after the iPhone Millionaire book. And it's really about taking control of the media and how the news business in particular warps our view of the world, and how important it is for people to take control of the medium. It's one thing to go march in the streets, but that's limited. That's very limited. And the reason people march it's a funny thing. The reason people march in the streets is so they can get on TV, right? Yeah. That's the only reason they do it. Yeah. But you can cut out the middleman and take control of TV. It's a lot more effective than marching, right? Right. So, and that's really what I recommend, is take control of the media.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for stopping by and coming in to chat with me for a few minutes. I really appreciate it. And I hope everyone can take some pointers or some lesson from this episode. And, go purchase the book, iPhone Millionaire. Visit thevj.com. That's
thevj.com. Right, not vj.com, thevj.com. Right. Okay, that's important.
Thevj.com. And connect with Michael and his team, his lovely wife. Your wife is she's usually in the background. Sometimes she does speak up, but she's just as amazing as you.
Yeah, she's over here reading the paper, waving hello to you right now. There she is. Okay.
Yeah, read that paper. It's so much to catch up on. But thank you so much. And again, this is The Reload. I'm your host, Kiana Ward, with my guest, Michael Rosenblum. And we are all about smartphones and taking over your creativity. So we will see you soon. Take care.
Great, Kiana. Thanks a lot. See you later.